If you picture an ancient sea battle, you're probably imagining something straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. A massive, lumbering galleon rowed by chained slaves, exchanging heavy cannon fire through a thick cloud of smoke. But 2.5 millennia ago, the most lethal vessel on the Mediterranean had 0 engines, absolutely no cannons, and a crew composed entirely of highly trained free citizens. This presents a tactical problem. Without explosives or armor-piercing artillery, how do you reliably destroy a wooden fleet floating on the ocean? The Greeks solved it by turning the ship itself into the weapon. They engineered a 47-ton human-powered projectile known as the trireme. Controlling the seas in the ancient world was an exercise in pure physics. It required manipulating kinetic energy to deliver one perfect, devastating strike. We have to start with the geography. The coastal waters of the Mediterranean are relatively calm, which meant human-powered galleys were far more precise and reliable than ships relying entirely on wind and sails. Look at this artifact. This is the trireme's primary weapon, a hollow bronze casting extending from the bow, weighing roughly 200 kilograms. Its blunt face features 3 horizontal fin-like blades engineered specifically to split open the seams of an enemy hull. Looking at this diagram, hitting a moving ship on its side was risky. Oars cushion the blow, and forward momentum snaps the ram. To ensure a clean hit, the attacker targeted the stern. The rear had small, oar-free blind spots, offering a perfect strike zone. Hitting that narrow target on a moving vessel meant a crew had to close the distance instantly. Extreme acceleration and razor-sharp timing were non-negotiable. Because the stern strike offered the highest chance of success, the trireme's architecture focused heavily on the agility needed to reach that specific point of impact. Looking closely at this reconstruction, you can see how they generated that power. The hull is packed tightly with 170 oarsmen, seated in 3 staggered, overlapping tiers to fit maximum muscle into minimum space. With the oar blades dipping into the water just 30 centimeters apart, a single missed beat meant a cataclysmic pileup. A musician playing a double-piped reed instrument kept the cadence, while a rowing master walked the center gangway to shout commands and maintain discipline. To cut weight, the crew stripped the ship before battle. The heavy wooden masts and large linen sails were taken down and left on shore. The results of this engineering are highly documented. From a dead stop, a trireme could hit 7 knots in 30 seconds and execute a full 180-degree turn within a radius of just 2 ship lengths. But generating that speed meant nothing if the ship destroyed itself on impact. As this cutaway shows, builders installed the hypozoma, a massive block-and-tackle tensioned hemp rope running beneath the deck from bow to stern to absorb the immense shockwave of a ramming strike. The trireme was a tightly wound mechanical and biological machine built for the sole purpose of surviving the violent delivery of kinetic force. When entire fleets met, they typically formed up abreast, ships aligned side by side in a long row, presenting a solid wall of forward-facing bronze rams to the enemy. This diagram maps out the dike plos, an offensive tactic. Attackers row at top speed to punch through gaps in the enemy formation. Once past the line, the helmsman executes a violent 90-degree pivot, swinging the bow to ram the exposed sterns of the defenders. To survive, defending fleets deployed the kyklos. They formed a massive, outward-facing ring, a nautical wagon circle, keeping their vulnerable sterns protected in the center. Victory belonged to the commanders who could leverage the precise geometry of these formations, alongside the raw acceleration of the trireme. The trireme pushed the technological limits of ancient maritime speed. Builders couldn't pack more muscle into a lighter hull without the entire structure breaking apart in the water. This carving illustrates the next phase of naval engineering. The Romans introduced larger vessels, like the quinquereme, adding extra men to each oar, and building heavy, elevated decks to carry large contingents of armed infantry. These heavy galleys introduced a different kind of combat. They were loaded with tall wooden fighting towers, massive boarding bridges fitted with iron hooks, and heavy torsion ballistae designed to launch stone projectiles. Naval tactics shifted. The focus moved away from the precision of high-speed ramming, and water essentially became a floating platform for large-scale infantry battles. While naval warfare eventually moved toward bigger ships and heavier armor, The trireme remains a specific example of how human rhythm and wooden engineering could be combined into a lethal precision instrument.